Welcome, everyone, for our Reimagining Cyber Extra episode. It's Rob Borrego and Stan Wisseman here, and we're going a little bit off the rails on this one, Stan, talking about cybersecurity movies. You might ask why. Well, our genius producer, Ben, came up with this idea. He said, guys, with the Oscars happening, wouldn't it be great for you guys to come back and share what you think are the top cybersecurity movies? And we said, Ben, that's genius. It's brilliant. Let's do that. So, given that the Oscars just happened this past weekend, that's exactly what we're going to do. And so, why don't we do it this way, Stan? We'll go back and forth. You will start. You throw out your first movie. Maybe let's do 5 each or so. You throw out your first movie, talk a little bit about why, and then I'll take the next one. We just go back and forth.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Kick us off.
Well, I have to start with War Games. I mean, it was released in 1983, right? And the next year, I joined the National Computer Security Center at NSA. And here's this movie about a high school kid who's hacking into his school to be able to change his grades.
This is about you, is what you're telling me.
Well, I wannabe Stan. But then he gets a little over his skis, and he finds this, military site. He thinks it's a game site, global thermonuclear war sounds like a game that he could play, and he gets it going. It turns out, oh no, he actually is start the supercomputer called Whopper, off on really running the game. It was kind of neat because Matthew Broderick does a very convincing role of playing this guy that is adept at not only doing hacking, but a little phone freaking, when you had to make that emergency phone call back to, his girlfriend, Ali Sheedy, gets into hacking the security system to get out of the little room that he's, locked up into. So he's just got this way about him of being able to figure out and problem solve. And so he wasn't necessarily a bad guy, he was just using his skills in ways of having fun, but also getting himself out of trouble. So that it was the first movie that I recall that was really focused on cybersecurity hacking, and also I was getting into that with my career. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen that movie.
Well, that's definitely a good one to start with. And you know what? Mine will continue in the theme of Matthew Broderick. And I'm going to go a bit comedy on you, and I'm going to go with Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I would not have thought of that one. No.
Cybersecurity. What do you mean? Well, how did Ferris Bueller get his day off? He hacked into the school computer system.
True.
Right?
True.
Changes his grades, his attendance records. He's off on he figured out the little loophole on how he can actually have a day for himself. And he had a great day with his couple of friends, right? And that's the way he got in and got it done, was by hacking in, again, to the computer systems.
Makes you wonder where the theme with Matthew Broderick, whether or not he actually graduated from high school.
But it's like, hey, Matthew, we like what you did over there with War Games. Come over here. We're going to put a little bit of humor behind that now, right?
Right, exactly. My next one is Sneakers. Yeah. So I don't know if you remember this one, but this was, Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, Dan Aykroyd, who was playing a hacker. So the cast was pretty outstanding, and the bad guy was, a fantastic actor. Ben Kingsley. He plays the friend gone bad to Robert Redford's Martin, and these guys are contracted to do a job. They have a white hat kind of business to test out the security of different systems and the like, but they sort of come upon this capability of decrypting anything, and flash forward obviously to our era, or maybe 10 years from now, when we're potentially able to use quantum computing to be able to crack any of the existing crypto algorithms. Maybe it's not that far fetched in the future, but this little black box that they steal turns out to be a hot potato. But it was, again, a fun movie as far as just the way we go about it and the acting, and even though at the time it was probably not realistic that something would be able to decrypt anything, it was an interesting storyline.
So I had to throw out a Bond movie, and I'm going to ask you, after I kind of talk about which one I picked, I'm going to ask you who your favorite James Bond has been? Which actor has played James Bond and is your favorite? So the James Bond choice I made was GoldenEye. And if you remember GoldenEye, right? So James Bond is actually trying to stop these Russian crime syndicate, basically, that becomes cyber at the end of it all, because they're going after and, trying to get access into actually cyberspace through satellites. Okay. And what are they going to do? Well, they're going to take over the world, of course, right?
They always do.
It's always the case. I mean, and he saves the world again, right? But of course, in typical James Bond fashion, he comes across his co-partner, and in this case, Natalia, saves the day. Why? Because Natalia is the one that actually is able to hack into the satellite system and take back control and self-destruct the satellite system to prevent.
I'll have to watch that one again, because I do not remember that.
Oh yeah. It was a Pierce Brosnan one. So I'm going to say not my favorite Bond. I will tell you mine, but who is yours?
Daniel Craig, without a doubt.
There you go. See, mutual. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
Without a doubt. Yep.
Now he's retired. He's off to doing mysteries with as Knives Out,
no kidding.
Whatever that.
Yep. Saw that recently. Yep. Still like him much better as Bond, but yeah. And there's of course the OG, right? The original Godfather, Sean Connery. Great. But I am also Daniel Craig for sure.
Yeah. So my next one, I'm a big Die Hard fan, and outside of the first Die Hard, my favorite one is Live Free or Die Hard, and that, John McClane is still just John McClane, right? He's not trying to be a hacker, but he is asked to actually apprehend and bring in an ethical hacker, Matt Farrell, who's Justin Long, and I think an aspect of this is the fact that you have this, the super bad guy is this guy named Thomas Gabriel, and he's launching attack against the critical infrastructure, but he has leveraged a bunch of other hackers to help build different components of his design, right? And they unknowingly, they're being paid, but they don't know really what the big picture is.
What it's going to be. Yeah.
Right. And so, it is characterized in the movie as a fire sale, that, there's a sequence of knocking down different parts of the critical infrastructures, in the US. And the feds are like being run around, having no clue as to how to stop or fix this. They're always behind the curve, which could be realistic, unfortunately. But I think it has a lot of obviously great action, like any Die Hard movie does. But it puts it in that context of how a mastermind that's trying to do very bad things by using cyber and the vulnerabilities he knows exist, could take advantage of that.
But think about that. Like that's, interesting. But the pieces, right? Kind of the bits to put it all together, they're being outsourced. Right?
Yeah.
And they don't know, as you said, they don't know what the actual kind of grand master plan is going to be that comes together. That's the reality of the world from a cybercrime perspective, right? They go and buy these service capabilities and they're doing their own thing.
And the people selling those services now, they don't care what the overall designs of the nation state or whoever the cyber syndicate that's actually using them.
Before I say the next one, I'm going to throw the clue out at you, which I'm sure you probably get, but I'm going to throw it out there. And the clue is, I'm not going to need those TPS reports today.
Office Space?
You got it. So
really?
Yeah. So you can see how I'm going here, right? So like, where is Bueller? Where did that come from, right? For Office Space, so it was a high-tech company these guys were working at. They become disgruntled employees. 3 of them become disgruntled employees. And they actually hack into the accounting system and they basically have a virus that's going out there and it's siphoning out money, right? They're embezzling the money back out of the system. And they go in and it triggers though. So they're kind of like, hey, we're going to slide underneath the radar. We're going to take a little bit of the, kind of cash, pull it across, and then we're out. We're actually going to quit. We're out of here. We're frustrated with everything that's going on. But the worm goes out and spreads further. So much money goes back in, right?
Yes.
Now we got a bigger issue to deal with. So yes, I threw out their Office Space.
I would not have considered that. Well, for my next one, I actually like the books better than the movie series. The movie series was okay, but the books were great. But if you remember the Girl and the Dragon Tattoo trilogy,
Yeah.
Lisbeth Salander is the hacker, and she's helping out a journalist. In the movie with the Girl in the Spider's Web, she's recruited to steal a powerful program called the Firewall, and with that, you can get the access codes for all the nuclear weapons the world had. That would be a terrible thing to be able to get access to, right? But the NSA gets involved, and there's all these thugs that steal a laptop, et cetera, et cetera. She comes across as somebody who's very resourceful, whether it be on a computer or physically, and again, lots of great action. You can tell I like action movies. My wife's not as much into action movies, so I have to watch these late at night. But
on your own,
you got to do what you got to do.
Stay focused that way. Avoid distractions. Get the popcorn, and you're all set. So the next one for me is I'm going to give you a hint. So it's John Travolta with an interesting looking hairstyle, and it's not Pulp Fiction. So it's Swordfish. So
that's a really good one. That's an oldie. Well, it's not as old as War Games, but it's a good one. Yeah,
it's over 20 years now. But yeah, so yeah, John Travolta in there, the bad guy, the mastermind behind the plot, right? And he's in a relationship, a friendly relationship with Halle Berry, who has a contact, happens to be Hugh Jackman. And Hugh Jackman had just gone away for a couple of years for hacking into the FBI systems.
And this is a very young Hugh Jackman.
Oh, this is early Hugh Jackman. Travolta's plan, right? Travolta's name was Gabriel, and it is to trick, right, Hugh Jackman's character into actually hacking into the Department of Defense this time around. And comes up with the kind of excuses and kind of here's the storyline. This is what we're going to do it, and obviously gets through there, and so Hugh Jackman comes up with this worm that gets out there, it gets into the environment, and basically it's for purporting that they're different government agents out there, and so they have different access credentials to get into these systems and whatnot. So I just thought that was an interesting one because it was kind of this interesting plot of the characters that they pulled together and the concept of just the hacking into the different government systems and using that and leveraging it to get back in.
There was a scene where Travolta is basically threatening his life, right, unless he hacked into a system in a certain period of time.
Yes, that's right.
And it's one of those things. Just like I just, pulling up all these things. It just wasn't realistic.
Really,
it's like it's coming down to seconds before you can get in. It's like, okay, well, I think
it's like watch me work. Come on.
Right.
Hey, one other thing, because I can't leave this one off. This was my last one.
Okay.
So as I've been going through the movies, you get a sense of what I like, right? So the Fast and the Furious series. Yeah.
Which one?
7.
Okay.
Number 7.
You have to remind me. There's so many. They're sort of a blur.
Yeah, they are.
Vin Diesel is so every one of them.
Though, so you should, be. It's like this stuff happens every day. God's Eye. Do you remember God's Eye?
Yes.
God's Eye. Right. So I can hack it. So I have this hacking device that has access to any camera in the world, and I can control these cameras. I can control. Remember that scene? It's traffic signals,
right?
Where they're basically everything's coming in. Autonomous vehicles kind of plug in everything. It's like one ridiculous idea at the time of what was happening, but I thought that was an interesting one, hacking into the system in God's Eye and then taking that thing down. That was had to throw out one of the Fast and Furious movies.
Well, I'm glad you got it in.
I got it off. I feel much better now. Well, Stan, you listed off some great ones, but if you had to just pick one, what's that top of the list?
It's a little dated now, but War Games. It just was again the first one that was associated with, again, computer security, and I was just getting started in the career of computer security at the same time. So I'd go with that one.
For me, I would actually go off of your list because it's different than my list by far, and I would go with Sneakers because when you said it, I remembered. Right, and I remember great actors within that movie as well in the storyline. So that might be happening this Friday night.
That's a good choice.
Popping it back on.
So, what kind of movie would you like to see created as far as one themed around cybersecurity or hacking in general?
That's a good question. I didn't really kind of think about that. Maybe it's something to do with, and I know there was something kind of on AI, but AI from the cybersecurity perspective and impact.
As a bad actor, the AI
basically with the AI becomes a bad actor, right? And you're seeing, kind of the ramifications of them doing so. Something like that, probably. How about yourself?
We're experiencing our first cyber war, right? Between Russia and Ukraine and affiliates on both sides. And while we've had things like James Bond and those kind of things, as far as a crime syndicate or some kind of bad guy or John Travolta with his master plan, something trying to represent, a cyber war, which is what we're going through. How would you do that in a movie that makes it something you can actually wrap your head around? That's what I think, unfortunately, the future might be, is that this is now in the forefront of every nation state's arsenal. They're honing their swords, as it were, in cyberspace.
It's true. I think Hollywood may be calling you after hearing this episode with you. So you never know. That's a good concept.
I'd be curious for our listeners to identify their favorite, movie that has a theme around hacking or cybersecurity, or and include that in the comments. So if you have one that we haven't mentioned, please go ahead and identify it for us.
Definitely. We'll look forward to reviewing those. And Stan, now the two of us can get out of these tuxedos. Let's go have a drink. Take care.
The tie's really tight around the neck too.
Loosen it up.
All right. Take care, man.
Take care.
Hello there, I'm Ben, producer of the show, and before you leave our little Reimagining Cyber Oscars after party, I'd just like to let you know that there are plenty of other episodes for you to enjoy. In fact, there are more than the Fast and Furious and Police Academy franchises combined, with Stan and Rob playing the lead roles every time. For example, you heard the guys talking about the Sneakers movie earlier on and how it relates to quantum computing. Well, episode 43 of Reimagining Cyber is called Inside the Fight to Protect Data from Quantum Computers and features Terence Spies, CTO of CyberRes Voltage.
The silver lining to this cloud is that the folks at NIST, National Institute for Standards and Technology, have spent the last 6 years working with cryptographers basically around the planet on sort of bring the Justice League together, superheroes assemble kind of job to say, hey, how do we find algorithms that are not vulnerable to these kinds of attacks?
And there are plenty more blockbusting episodes where that came from. Also, if your podcast listening app lets you rate or review the show, then do let us know what you think. You could even share with us your favourite cyber or hacking film. Mine is Superman 3. Controversially, it didn't win an Oscar, but then neither did Alfred Hitchcock. Go figure.